historically, General Atlantic, given that we're growth investors and tend to look for those companies and subsectors within industries that grow at above average rates, have tended to shy away from hospitals in the U.S., a lot of it based on some of the macro factors identified here. And that said, though, I actually do think that the two deals that were done, both by KKR and CCMP, are both going to be successful for different reasons. HCA, great franchise, and I think CCMP going after a rural strategy is actually quite interesting. Internationally, what's quite interesting is that with an emerging middle class, you can map it out. It's a one-for-one correlation of increase in GDP and per capita spending on healthcare. And if you look at countries such as Brazil, India, China, there is such a gross underinvestment in the healthcare infrastructure in these markets that there's a burgeoning demand for a parallel. There's insufficient public system, and alongside that there's opportunity in the private sector that offer actually quite compelling growth opportunities as well. So we're spending a lot of time even looking at the hospital sector outside the United States because of some of the growth dynamics and just the burgeoning middle class and disposable income available for healthcare. Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, just to tie it back into the other area within international we think is interesting is there are a lot of industries and subsectors in the U.S. that have become ex-post growth. Take the lab sector in the U.S. I mean, Quest and LabCorp have done a phenomenal job of consolidating the clinical laboratory space. And while we think that's very interesting, we think there are similar opportunities if you apply that same methodology, international markets, where we can look back with pretty good hindsight based on the U.S. experience to see ourselves in countries that are 10 or 15 years behind where the U.S. market was in its development, and learn from some of the lessons, the things that went well and things that did not go so well, and pursue that. So we just invested in a lab space in Europe where there's a huge consolidation underway right now because of some changes in regulation. And I think that's growth where you can see 20 to 30% top line growth per year organically, which is something that you don't see in the US anymore. So we've tried to take a lot of the lessons based on our experience as investors over the last 25 years in healthcare and say, what can we apply? Which of those, if any, are adaptable to the local markets, recognizing this completely different payer structures. But the beauty of healthcare is it's the most local of industries, but it's also the most global of industries. It affects everyone, regardless of the economy.